Yeah, actually I'm doing the hard shift right after lunch, or now the second one after lunch. So I wanted to pick a light topic, maybe cause a discussion, but yeah, I think it's really interesting. I designed it to be a little bit of entertaining, so that everyone could follow easily. Yeah, if you have questions, just feel free to interrupt me, okay? Topic for today is the difference between mind mapping and business mapping, because this is a discussion that is heating up every year, every time again. Two mind mappers collide into each other. Okay, so traditional mind mapping and what do you do? So first of all, who am I? To make clear on which side I am, if there are such sides. I'm pre-sales consultant at Mindjet, and you could call Mindjet the mother of all mind mapping tools. This is something that I didn't make up. I read that on comparison. Mindjet was found or the Mind Manager, the product I'm presenting with, was found or was created 1994 by our founder Mike Jeter. I think quite a while, 20 years now, and was the first digital mind mapping tool at that time. And I want to show you where it went to, or what it became today. I'm really glad, and this is why one of the reasons why my colleague Armin Schneider joined me is that Armin Schneider came with me to this event. He's with Mindjet since 13 years, and he's not even the oldest member of our company. So if you have questions about the development and so on, it's really nice to see that someone has made that change live, has lived that change live. Okay, but I want to open with an easy question, or two questions actually. And the first one is, do you think that mind mapping as a traditional technique is scalable for each individual, especially in a business, or at all, for each individual? Do you think everyone could use mind maps or would like to use mind maps? Okay. The next question is, why had Mindjet Mind Manager such a hype in the early millennium? Those were the really, really good days, and still has a growing user base. I just read a number from an article from 2003 where somebody reported about Mindjet, and they were really glad with their company to hit the 35,000 users, 2003. Do you know what the actual data roundabout is? We don't know exactly, but we're talking around about 4 million users of Mindjet Mind Manager. So quite a growing rate, I think. Okay, first of all, why mind mapping? Why at all should we mind map? That's pretty clear. I don't think I need to preach to the prayer. Mind mapping is a powerful technique for the information visualization, for information gathering, and there's no doubt about that. We are clear about that, and everyone is clear about that. It enhances creativity, understanding, productivity, and self-management. So, why isn't it used in every company? Because that's important for everyone. Everybody needs those advantages. But why don't they use mind maps? And what I'm going to mention now is just from my experience as pre-sales consultant. I went day after day to customers, to big businesses, to users, people that work only for themselves with mind maps, and asked myself, how could I enhance the usage of Mind Manager within my company or for my friends? And very often, just listen here deep into your own voice. Maybe you have heard that before. Look at that crazy bastard. Very often, mind mapping is understood as fancy creativity stuff with colors and painting. Not everybody wants that. People are used to work with static info, some information that you have heard today multiple times. They are used to work with numbers, with charts, they have appointments and emails. And for each of those needs, they have systems that are all, what are they all? Static, right? And something that I hear day after day, and I'm almost tired of hearing that. What say people if you say, well, I do mind mapping? Have you heard that before? Well, mind mapping is what? What do people say always, every time? Brainstorming. Yeah, that's that brainstorming stuff, right? I'm sick of hearing that, because it's more than that. Okay? What is the problem with that? Very often it's so that people have problems with the rules of Mindjet. And yes, I know, they are important. There are a few rules invented or mentioned by Tony Buzan, and there are reasons for that. I know that, and I don't want to discuss about that. It is as it is. But very often they may keep you from your main focus as a company, as a business. And what is your goal as a business, as a company, as a business worker? You have a goal, and what is your job to do? To get that done ASAP, as soon as possible, as effective as possible, but mainly as soon as possible. Okay? And then, when it is even better, in the same time, much more better. Okay, so I want to compare now, really, let's say, it's critical, but I want to drive that comparison and drive a historic look at that. How many of you came here to Berlin, or at least to the airport by car? Please raise your hands. Come on, I don't trust you. For real, who drove with a car at least today or yesterday to this place? Good. Now I want to quote someone, and he said, "The horse is here to stay, but the automobile is only a novelty, a fad." I would like to name that person, but there is no name mentioned. I will explain why. But they only know who he was. And he was the president of Michigan Savings Bank in 1903. There is no name. Why? There's only one name that comes with that quote, and that is Mr. Horace Rackham. The situation was, Horace Rackham was the lawyer of Henry Ford. Henry Ford, yes, that rings a bell. Henry Ford created a new company, the Henry Ford Motors Company, and he asked his lawyer, "Well, Horace, you're quite wealthy, why don't you invest into my company?" Well, Horace Rackham was wealthy, and what do wealthy people do? They ask clever people, they think they are clever and they know how to make more money. So he asked the president of the Michigan Savings Bank, also quite an intelligent person, and asked whether or not he should invest into Ford Motors Company. And he said, "Well, no, don't do it. It's crazy. It's a novelty. It's a fad." 1903, cars were that name around the clock. Luckily, Horace Rackham didn't listen to him. He invested into Henry Ford's company. There were 11 investors, and he became crazy rich. He was at that time one of the wealthiest persons in the world because of that investment. Luckily, he didn't listen to him. What were cars at that time made for? To understand why that guy said that. First of all, they were made to come from point A to point B, and if you were lucky, quicker and even more comfortable as a car. 1903, not for real. Those were the only two goals for a car at that time. And now let me compare two cars and how much they have in common. The Benz motor wagon. The first car patented by Mr. Benz himself, or Daimler in that case. How much does this car have in common with that one? It doesn't even have the same amount of wheels, right? Crazy. And why is this so? Pretty easy. Because to become successful, it had to move from its origin, the horse. This meant it had to develop further than its ancestors. Okay? Even if that meant a horse has no roof. Yeah, but if it rains, I will become wet on a horse, not in my car with a roof on top. And even if that meant that I can't feed it with grass or with anything else, but with petrol or fuel, petrol or whatever. And that is really important for everything that wants to be successful and has the possibility to be designed. A horse is a horse. You can't stretch a fifth leg to that horse, right? It has to adapt to the needs of the clients. And that's pretty easy because it has the possibility to be adapted to a need. And exactly that is why we, as professional mind mappers, need to keep in mind we can't force businesses and other professionals that are effective and successful right now to change the way how they think and how they have learned for years after years after years that information has to be static. We can't achieve that just by saying mind maps are better. We need to lure them into it. And even if that means that we need to adapt and that we need sometimes to go away from our origin as traditional mind mappers and blend in. So what's business mapping at all? Let's get serious. Business mapping is, let's say, the combination of the advantages that are delivered by the mind mapping methodology and combined and filtered to fit to the complex needs that businesses have. So, I'll give you an example. Imagine that. You go to the bank because you want to talk about your financing plan of your house or whatever. And because you are a professional, what do? Well, a mind map, nothing else. Mind map is the thing to do. But what do you think? How would your financier react to your crazy, colorful mind map? With paintings and no numbers. How would he react?
He would laugh.
Probably he would laugh, right. And I have been laughed at multiple times by showing mind maps that were really colorful, right? It's the way things are. The key to achieve that advantage with our mind map is we have to speak his language. We have a lot of flexibility in business maps because we don't say this is the rule that you have to follow, and we can deliver to our professionals in an attractive way how their information is presented. And because we don't force into rules and this or that, it's really flexible, like I've said. You can change the design of a, don't get me wrong, chaotic. It's, chaotic because we know that it's structured, but for someone who is used to a listed design, it seems chaotic. So you can switch simply with one click with business maps or with one little attachment, don't too much into IT, the appearance into a listed organization. And you can include those needed hard facts that people in businesses want to see. Numbers, appointments, persons, amount, and so on and so on. And that is a big advantage of mind maps or business maps especially. You can directly navigate to the needed information. That was the perfect handover with hyperlinks to the addresses where you can buy, for example, the stuff that you need to cook. So background info. So how would a financier react to that map? Not that bad, right? Well, that is a business map. And it's a combination between hard facts, let's say numbers, you can calculate within that mind map to see exactly where you get to, and it is still in the principle a mind map with in the further understanding. Okay, another problem, another example would be the project management, where we say from mission to action. I talked about that last year, so I don't want to focus too much on that, but it's a little bit more process focused, which means if you are in a project, how do many companies start? And that's really good. This is where Mindjet is known for, where mind maps are known for. Brainstorming. Yes, everyone sits in a room with other ideas and create a mind map. And afterwards, what happens with that mind map? Actually, really, what happens? They pin it to the wall, and then everybody goes back to his office, goes to Excel, goes to Word, and so on, and does his stuff. But with business maps, you have the capability to do more with that information that you just gathered from your team, where you enhance the creativity. You can assign tasks, you can plan, you can calculate costs, you can work with different options, you can make decisions on the basis of that information that you have all in one specific business map, and so on, and so on. Yeah, most important, you can communicate. All that information is communicatable into those systems that all of us, let's say, hate. All of those static systems that are set within businesses, and it is as it is. This is what is business mapping. Business mapping means simply to get the bridge between the static info that already exists, and every company has a lot of static information as well as I have, as myself has with emails and so on, and improve the flexibility to that data, and of course to visualize that information. That is so-called an information cockpit, which means on one view you can see all the important information that is related to your project. But it's even more than that, because this is all just visualization so far. Within business mapping tools like Mindjet Mind Manager is one of those, you can actively work with that information. You can start to manage projects like I've already mentioned. And it is one tool for cross-functional teams, which means development, financing, sales. All of those can have access to the same information. Good. That's it, so I will speak up. So it actively helps to do the task planning, to do the cost planning. Just some examples with visual markers. We also use colors in our mind maps, for example, to show do you exceed your budget or not. But it's quite comfortable that it will turn red automatically as soon as someone exceeds his budget. Those are features that won't be able in a traditional mind map, because how? If you aren't allowed to use calculations within that. Or task planning. I know this is something that multiple tools already have, which we, for example, invented. Gantt charts. It's just another view to your mind map where you can actively plan and use professional functions to cope with your problems. And this is an example. What is the goal? To be as flexible as possible for our companies, to lure them into mind mapping by not saying, well, Word is bad, Excel is bad. If you use Excel and it is a set tool that you need to use, if you use Microsoft Project or anything else, you can combine it. And we had a discussion within the meeting where people use tools that are bad for that. Create a project plan in Word. But if someone is used to do it and he doesn't want to change, what should you do? Should you say, well, then I leave, goodbye? No, that's not what we want to achieve. And this is why it's interesting that we have interfaces to each Office application, whether it's Outlook, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Project, or via CSV to Excel and other applications, bi-directional synchronizations and so on. But that's, again, too much into the product. I just wanted to mention it. There's a saying which says, the success justifies the means. Actually, it's a little bit different, but I don't want to quote Machiavelli here in such a positive group. What does it mean? It means if we lure them into the mind mapping technology or methodology by using business maps and present afterwards, well, actually what you do is that some sort, be patient, some sort of a mind map. Then it is how you could spread the word around companies, around businesses, without using too much force and pressure in them. And therefore, we must understand what businesses need. What do they want to achieve? What is their pain? This is interesting. A company like Mindjet, relatively big company, has done several things. We do case studies with our customers, which means we talk to our customers. How did you use that software? If he is from financing, tell us, why did you choose Mind Manager to solve your problem? What was the problem and how did you solve it? Because he knows way better what his problems were than we. Okay? We have marketing, which creates a lot of material, organizes meetings like that, where we have a lot of input as well as output. Professional services like myself, who go to the customer, do trainings, do consulting days, roll out the software. Someone says, I went 2 days ago, I went to Basel to a company who creates materials, linings for seats. And he said, well, actually, I have this and that and this problem. And he said, now, I have heard Mind Manager could help. After 2 hours, he leant back, grinned with such a face, and checked with everybody up, okay, well, that's exactly where we want to go to. Of course, it takes now time to solve that and to be more precise, but that is feedback that you can only achieve if you talk to your customer. As well as technical services, we have heard that, where you hear issues, you see, oh well, that's used very often, and if there is a problem, how can we solve that? A lot of communication, which then should stream right back into the product to make it more flexible, and so that it fits better to the needs of our customers. What does Mindjet do? I want to keep that really short. Mindjet slowly but surely developed the business mapping area. We started, we have heard that, 1994 with the MindMan was the first application. It was something totally different. It was a pure mind mapping tool, and not even that was it really so. Okay, but we had a lot of harsh critique to cope with within that time, because Mike Jetta, our founder, changed the things that Tony Pouzan said, this is how it is, this is how it has to work. A lot of critique, well, that are not mind maps, and everyone who was last year in Utrecht can remember a really, oh God, it was such a heated discussion where people were almost fighting. What is a mind map and what is not? So, important point, okay? We had a lot of critique and we are used to that critique. And it helps businesses, especially businesses. As a company of that size, we are focused, of course, to businesses. We help businesses to work and teams to work together more efficiently and to spread the word about mind maps as well as business maps. Very often people think that mind manager is mind mapping, or those two are very often switched up. And yeah, a lot of studies, a lot of feedback that is streaming right back into the product. A lot of queries are done and research is done with professional companies where we hear what are the needs, what are the problems, and then to touch on that. So Mindjet drives the business mapping sector. I know that there are other competitors who can't argue with that. Of course, we have some similarities. Everyone has his own taste, his own flavor. Mindjet created it and is that the tool that has, let's say, the overall all. And what does this mean for all of us, or should this mean not for all of us? Well, I would say don't be a horse. It might look like that. So I was pretty quick.
No, it's good.
Any questions?
Thank you, Lucas.